Picture this. We're round to the next generation of console. After a bit of delay, deliberation, and a little bit of saving, you've finally ordered your console. That's an exciting time, right? There's a buzz about that brand new next-gen console turning up. Now picture the worst period of your life. A time where you're so low that you just don't want to wake up in the morning. Yeah, the two don't go together. I splurged on a PS4 back when they first came out, and on a collector's edition of a game I'd been looking forward to, and it was all in the hopes I'd feel happy, in the hopes I'd feel something. Second Son had a lot of pressure on its shoulders before I even put the disc in the console. And at the time, I wasn't impressed. The game just didn't cause a spark like the first two games had on the PlayStation 3. I got about a third of the way through the game and just stopped playing. I came to the conclusion that perhaps I'd just outgrown gaming. I continued on with the existence that was my life at the time because it wasn't living. 7 years on, I decided inFamous Second Son deserved a second chance. Second Son takes place after the events of inFamous 2, and while it has the feel of the franchise it's part of, it's very much its own game. It had to be. Second Son needed to be a gateway into the franchise with the new next generation of console and players. This is a continuation of the franchise, but a fresh start at the same time, and I'm glad they did it the way they did. This time around we're playing as Delson, who in the opening 15 minutes discovers he's a conduit who can absorb the powers of other people. Early on, he's portrayed as a delinquent, who is at odds with his sheriff older brother Reggie. And he's a nice guy. What's wrong with that, you say? Well, inFamous of course works on the karma system, when you either build good or bad karma on your actions. Good actions are side activities like breaking up drug deals or rescuing other conduits, while bad actions are of course killing people and chasing off protesters. Then throughout the game there are some large, more impactful choices like redeeming a fellow conduit or sending them on a more sinister path. Of course, however you play decides how the game ends for you. The thing is, Delson felt like a nice guy. He didn't seem like the type of person who would willingly kill people for his own advantage, or just because he was powerful and he could do so. The thing with the original inFamous games was the protagonist Cole is that you could believe he could go either way in those games. He was gruffer and he felt more morally ambiguous at the start. Delson is a delinquent at the start of Second Son. He's perhaps underappreciated, but a bad guy? No, he never came across that way to me. However, that made him engaging to players for me.
This is gonna be awesome!
You see him develop a purpose. How that purpose plays out, of course, depends on your actions in the game. The main plot of the game is entertaining enough, but I found it to be predictable. They've handled the side characters well enough and developed them well, with perhaps the exception of Delson's brother Reggie. I think he just needed a bit more. He seemed to be on the cusp of acceptance of his brother being a conduit, and it just never seems to quite happen.
This thing with you is gonna pass. I promise, we'll fix it. Alright, you with me? You with me? Okay.
The theme of acceptance runs throughout the game. Being a conduit in the game world is the epitome of being different in the real world. Delson's struggle to find acceptance in the world due to his difference struck a chord with me. It made me relate far more to Delson, and I imagine there are a lot of people who would feel the same way for their own reasons. They've also paralleled Delson with the main antagonist, Augustine, well. Ultimately, the two want the same thing, to keep conduits protected. They just have very different methods of doing it. I did think they were going to throw an utter curveball by trying to throw some sort of backstory that may redeem Augustine, but nope. They just made her seem even more selfish and evil, and she'll stay imprinted in my memory for that reason.
Yeah, I'm told that hurts.
Second Son feels like an inFamous game. Even if the karma system doesn't feel totally right. It's got to be over 10 years since I touched either of the first two games, but as soon as I started playing this, I could just feel it. There's this floaty feel to the controls of the inFamous games that I don't think I could associate with any other game. There was also a lot of creative use of the DualShock 4 controller. A creativity that I don't think has been utilised in a lot of other games. I like when the speaker on the controller rings like a phone. I like that in this game you handle the controller like a spray paint can. Did that get a little annoying with the amount you have to tag things? Yes, but I enjoyed the novelty to start with. One thing that struck me while playing this game is the world. The city of Seattle looks stunning at times. They really showed what the new hardware could do. They've also lent into the share function, which was new with the PS4, and have given the option of a photo mode, which was used more than once in my playthrough. The only thing was, the option to go into this wasn't defaulted in the controls, and is something you find in the settings. Something I only found when I was looking to remove the display to take a screen capture. Personally, I would have made a bigger deal of it. One of my biggest criticisms of this game was the repetitiveness of it all. Once you'd done the side content in one district, you'd essentially done it all. There was no variation to it. I found the main story the same. Delsin gets a new power, he powers himself up, then learns how to use that power. Rinse and repeat 2 more times. There was just enough variation in the function of those powers to keep it interesting, but ultimately, they all handled the same. Overall, I would say inFamous Second Son doesn't disappoint. If nothing else, back in 2014 it really showed off what the PS4 could do, and it continued the franchise on well. Even if there hasn't been another game since. Was it going to cure my depression? Well, no, that's quite obvious now. 7 years on, it's quite apparent I hadn't outgrown gaming like I thought. Though through the years I've had a few more bad spells where I've thought, is this it? Am I done with gaming now? It wasn't until I got through this rough period in my life that I realised that gaming was so emotive. I've associated Second Son and Assassin's Creed Black Flag with such negative emotions that one of my fears returning to this game was if I went back to it, would it take me back to those feelings at the time? I've blocked out a lot of what happened during that time in a form of self-preservation. Would playing this wake something bad inside me? No, that didn't happen. It was very much down to the circumstances at the time, and I'm a very different person now who has had the help for a lot of the things I was struggling with then. Though, I don't see myself returning to Black Flag like I did with this. Some of those associated emotions are just far too raw. Throughout this game, Delsin felt different because he's a conduit, and upon reflection, my mind frame at the time wouldn't let me see the similarities. I felt different. Unfortunately, my difference was anxiety and not superpowers, but it's a difference all the same. As I've previously stated, I felt a connection with Delsin. It's so rare I feel such a strong connection to the male protagonists I play as, and this one just hit differently. If you take anything away from this video, it's firstly, go and play inFamous Second Son. It's a great game, and it still stands up as a decent game now. Secondly, and most importantly, if you're struggling with feeling different or mental health, there are lots of places to get help. You don't have to struggle in silence. You'll be surprised just how many people are willing to listen to your troubles and help guide you through. Stay safe, look after yourself, and thanks for watching.